Because that's wild, right? Watching 20 years of my life summed up in a 2-minute brand story film. And the crux of it all is that until you win, effort goes unnoticed. My winning season isn't because I went from this to this. My winning season is every single moment that happened in between, no matter how big or small, especially the times I wanted to give up and still kept going. Some of you may expect that I'd speak about real estate investing or working with investors, and perhaps I'd share how mastering the art of pivoting within my niche, most recently into the co-living space with PadSplit, has created long-term sustainable success in my business as well as the agents who partner with me. And I'd share that regardless of the changing market and economy, I'll continue to grow more successful by creating passive income opportunities for myself and everyone I serve. And I would have convinced you to hopefully do the same. I'm sure it would have been a great talk. But when I thought about how I wanted to show up for you today, I tore a sheet of paper out of my notebook and I wrote down the word build, followed by the word expand. And I repeated the words inside of myself: build, expand, build, expand. And the first thing I wrote down was roots, because we need strong roots with which to build upon. And then I wrote down the word resilience, which is the ability to recover quickly from difficulties. In order to expand, we must be resilient. And this caused me to reflect on recent conversations I've had with realtors who are experiencing doubt, who are feeling uncertain, who are chasing the next shiny object instead of watering the very grass they're standing on, as well as conversations I've had with those who are steadfast in their craft, holding strong in their commitment to their clients, to their agents, and this brokerage, knowing that tomorrow is brighter together. Roots and resilience, that's the framework for this conversation. And I wondered if Build was the place I should unleash new material. But I could hear Brent Gove whispering in my ear, progress before perfection. And I decided I'd be more useful if I shared what I mastered long before working with investors. I mastered my mindset. In the last 5 months, I've been having somewhat of an existential crisis since burying my brother suddenly and tragically. And I have begun to question my path, something that I have had complete clarity on for many years. And in my quest to understand my feelings, I embarked on a deep dive into the mindfulness of mindset. And it felt so applicable, given the current state of the economy, the markets, and our industry, and all the changes that lie ahead. And I thought to myself, could we be so mindful of our mindset that we exhibit so naturally the spirit of great leaders in our everyday endeavors? And if that question feels profoundly elevated for this hour of the morning, let's dial it back. How do we avoid emotional burnout while sustaining excellence in decision-making and action-taking? It starts with mindset. Mindset extends its influence far beyond cognitive patterns. It exerts a profound impact on our overall well-being. A growth mindset directly correlates with reduced stress levels, improved mental health, and a more fulfilling life. But most importantly, mindset is an undeniable predictor of success. Those who firmly believe in their ability to grow are more likely to overcome obstacles and achieve their goals. We have the power to shift and reshape our mindset. So no matter how old you are or how set in your ways you believe yourself to be, you hold the key that opens the door to transformative change, and that is what I hope you take from your time with me today. Throughout my story, you'll see slides of a particular mindset I developed around an event in my life, and I want you to take time to revisit this list to determine how these have shown up in your life long before real estate, to figure out how to use them to propel your business forward today. Our thoughts shape our beliefs. And our beliefs shape the actions we take when we want to accomplish something, the same way our beliefs shape the actions we default to in times of discomfort, stress, and uncertainty. And it's important to acknowledge the external sources that influence our thoughts and beliefs to figure out, well, how do we use them in our lives? Are they headwinds working against us, or are they tailwinds pushing us forward? And the only way to do this is to turn inward and take an introspective inventory of the version of our life story we tell ourselves and everyone else. But don't worry. By retelling our story through a new lens, it allows us to reframe the experience and derive new lessons from them. So if you know me, you know that I am a prodigy musician, I'm a cancer survivor, and I am an exceptional realtor. Yo, cool flex, B. But now, let me tell you the real story. I developed the mindset of determination when I got serious about playing the saxophone at 8 years old. I wasn't born a prodigy classical musician, but I became one through extreme practice, discipline, and a burning desire to be the best, fueled by my 4th grade teacher who, when I asked him if I could switch from the flute to the sax, said no. The saxophone was a boy's instrument. And I was forced to wait until middle school to begin. And the remedial music school teacher said to me, "You're gonna have to work very hard if you wanna catch up to the other kids." My prey drive was activated. And this is where I developed the mindset of commitment. You see, I wanted to be better than the kids who were ahead of me, and I was willing to put the work in to get there. And I knew I could be better than them because I could outwork them. I believed I could be better. I took action to be better, and I was. But what if I wasn't as good as I thought? What if I was just surrounded by mediocre people? Because we hear this all the time in business. If you are the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. So as my talent grew, I expanded my horizons and surrounded myself with elevated musicians just like me. And at the highest level of competition, there were 2 alto saxophone chairs up for grabs representing the all-Eastern band in the United States of America, and I won seat number 2, and my mother said to me, "How come you're not number 1?" And the question hurt me deeply, not just because it was my mom who asked. She was merely giving a voice to what was silently raging within me, that I wasn't the most talented. All that hard work and discipline would only get me to be second best. What was it all for? I yelled at my sax teacher. This was the worst day ever. And my teacher, Ken Ravel, pulled me aside and he said, "My darling, there is no room here for negative Nellies." And he took me outside and he looked at me with his face that was wrinkled with decades of wisdom, and he said, "Beth, on your worst day, you need to be 100% better than your competition on their best day." My head dropped in defeat, and he lifted my chin to meet his blue eyes that sparkled with all the wonderment life would have in store for me, and he said, "In case you were wondering, you are your competition." Mindfulness means staying focused on the progress, not the outcome. You see, the reality is, even though I was really good, once I was surrounded by higher level players, there were simply people who were doing it better. And there was no collaboration, only competition. And this is exactly how it felt at the 100% boutique brokerage I was at for 7 years on Isolation Island. Still, I continued putting in the work, which after more time on task was merely a habit. So by age 16, I played on stage at Carnegie Hall. By 19, I commissioned my first piece for saxophone and marimba that won a Fishoff Award. I was the principal saxophonist of the Peabody Wind Ensemble and Concert Orchestra, and I was surrounded by growth-minded people, and we inspired some of the greatest performances out of one another, and boy, did we have fun. And that has been my experience at EXP. And I never made the correlation between the two. No, really, I never made the correlation between the two until I retold the story from a new frame, which allowed me to figure out what I needed in my life present day. Earlier, I shared that I have been questioning my path. And by retelling this one story, it gave me certainty that I am exactly where I belong. The first move toward mastery is inward, so let's take some inventory. Please close your eyes. Take a deep breath. Release the noise and the day-to-day clutter. Thinking about the external influences in your life, who has provided you with the thoughts and perspectives that have shaped a significant amount of your positive thinking in your formative years? Is it a baseball coach? Perhaps a third grade teacher? And what traits did they possess? Were they optimistic, wise, experienced, compassionate? And what do they inspire in you? Open your eyes and jot down who you thought of, because I want you to revisit this later, and here is why. Recognizing positive external influences from our past allows us to figure out what we need in our life present day to be our best selves. I need a coach who is calm and wise, like my sax teacher, Ken Revell. He centered me. He never allowed my ego to take control. Every nuance, every quip over 8 years together has stayed with me for a lifetime. Too bad I wasn't thinking about Ken when I hired my first real estate coach. He was Wim Hof breathing on his way to the gym at 2 o'clock in the morning, a real loud, heavy-hitting, aggressive, my way to growth is the only way to grow kind of guy. I bet you can imagine that it didn't work out too well. And then I hired a coach like Ken, who was so personable in his demeanor. His quips I still say every day to this day. And he inspired me to think and act consistently. And I doubled my units in volume that first 6 months. Close your eyes once more. Take a deep breath. This time I want you to think about who has shaped a significant amount of your negative thinking. Are they closed-minded? Or perhaps a product of their environment? Are they toxic, judgmental? Do they instill doubt or fear or sabotage you from growth? And when you look in the mirror, do you see their reflection or yours? Open your eyes, jot down who you just thought of, because you're going to revisit this later, and here's why. People who are unaware of or who underappreciate the role of negative external factors tend to be overly harsh on themselves during moments of failure, or unsympathetic to the plight of others, affecting our ability to be a good leader. Now, it's important to note, not all external influences that are positive are beneficial if we frame negative thoughts around them. I felt I was unworthy of my father's love and admiration if I didn't achieve his standard of professional and financial success. So even though I consider my dad to be one of the strongest external influences in my life, it was important to my success to recognize that he didn't hold so much power over me, that he could be the reason I lived below my highest potential. So carve out time to retell your story, and you just might discover some compassion and understanding for what has shaped your beliefs. Let go of everything that no longer serves you and use everything else to inspire positive momentum forward. Change your beliefs, change your actions, change your life. Actually, it's save your life. See, the thing is, it's much easier to change your life when you realize no one is coming to save you. A strong mindset is more than simply refusing to quit. A strong mindset is mindful, and a mindful mindset is aware, it is focused, and it is resilient. But what did I know about being resilient? You see, in our youth, we're too short-sighted to recognize the importance of developing the mindset of longevity and preservation. A mindset that I was robbed of when I was 26 and diagnosed with an aggressive form of breast cancer. That was when the musician in me died, along with the entire life I had meticulously planned for myself. But it's okay. I needed to let go of control and clear as much space as possible for the mindset of survival. Contrary to popular belief, the mindset of survival does not require strength. You got one decision. You can bury your head in the sand, and in my case, that meant death. Or you can choose to fight like hell, and in my case, that meant I still might die. You see, the injustice of choosing to be the hero of your life is you must surrender the outcome. You can do all the things that people tell you to change your circumstances, but nothing in this life is guaranteed. Still, as entrepreneurs, we are ambitious enough to always try. I met my oncologist on my 27th birthday, and she looked down at my chart for what seemed like an eternity and then glanced up at me and said, "Happy birthday, kiddo," and then looked down at my chart again, studying the pathology for my surgery like it was a difficult crossword clue in the Sunday New York Times. "Gonna be a great fucking year," I replied, much to my parents' dismay. And she smirked, seemingly unbothered. I would later come to she was thinking, my son is Beth's age. The mindful mindset is aware. You see, I was so busy being preoccupied with everything that was happening to me, I couldn't see everything that was happening for me. But the only people who see the whole picture are the ones who step outside of the frame. And I wanted her to be as emotionally charged as I was, because somehow if my doctor was as fired up about my cancer as I was certainly going to beat it. But she was quiet, calm and collected, studying my demeanor as much as she studied my chart. The mindful mindset is focused. Because my cancer was not yet stage 4, I didn't qualify for a clinical trial of a drug that I would likely die without. How's that for irony? I wasn't dying enough to get a drug that I was going to die without. "We'll fight the FDA," I barked, always ready to wage a war. And she turned on this computer program. It was a statistical program, and she punched in my life and my disease. And she said, "You have a 52% chance of surviving 5 years." And I just looked at her, and I leaned all the way in, and I said, "You don't know me. My name is Beth Silverman, and your 52% is my 100%. Just tell me what I need to do." Now, she admired that about me, knowing that that level of mental fortitude would play a crucial role in my survival. But decades as an oncologist taught her that optimism must be balanced with realism. But she turned off the monitor, and she leaned in and said, "I'm with you, kid. Next month will mark 20 years since that conversation took place. But if the happy ending is all we take away from a story, where is the lesson that we can build upon? You see, too often we are blinded by the destination, not the journey. We see highlight reels on Instagram or glossy magazines that capture a picture-perfect moment, but not the years of struggle. We sit in rooms with team leads who sell over $500 million a year and feel so far removed from their level of success instead of asking them about the setbacks and obstacles that got them there. Raise your hand if you have ever compared yourself to others. If you have, at times, convinced yourself that you are unworthy of belonging, or perhaps you've experienced imposter syndrome. I remember my first build in Cabo. I was sitting 2 rows behind 3 billionaires. I was so eager. And I was so inspired by everyone who took the stage, but I couldn't help but have this underlying feeling in the pit of my stomach, like I didn't belong because I wasn't playing on their level. Their success felt so unattainable to me that I told myself everything I had accomplished wasn't good enough. Now, you just heard some of the things that I've accomplished. And yet, in that moment, as I compared myself to others, I chose to ignore the path I had already forged in the lane of my own life. If you accept a limiting belief, it will become the truth for you. I'm not saying take the road less traveled. Hell, we get a lot further on the roads they've already paved for us. But that doesn't mean you're not going to run out of gas or get a flat tire or hit a pothole or three. It simply means I cannot teach you how to drive a parked car. The mindful mindset willingly takes the first step. Now, we've talked a lot about thoughts and beliefs, but we got to talk about action. Identify the excuses you tell yourself and others. Be relentless in your pursuit of what makes you unlimited. Success doesn't just leave clues, it leaves the entire roadmap. Identify your distractions. I remember when Phil Stringer told me he was going to stop watching television to focus on building his AI business. We were in Dallas at Build. The year was 2021, and Phil later told me how many hours he recouped in a day, and look at Phil Stringer now. Starve your distractions and feed that focus. Identify your biggest obstacles. Motivation gets you started, but discipline and habits are what keep you going. How far are you willing to travel? Alex Hormozy talks about writing a reverse list to help eliminate the downside for taking action, and here's what he means. If your goal was to recruit 30 agents to your organization in 30 days, and I asked you to write a list of all the steps to take to successfully reach that outcome, you might get stuck. And when we're stuck, we don't act. But if I asked you to write a list of all the steps to take to ensure you never bring anyone to your organization, I bet you'd fill up a sheet of paper real quick. I bet you'd EXP all over it. So this can be applied to anything we're feeling stuck at or anything that we want to achieve. So if you want to win the listings, let's make a list of all the things to do to ensure we never win a listing. I'm not going to follow up on that appointment I set 3 days ago. I'm certainly not going to dress up or arrive on time. I mean, aren't all realtors late? No. I'm not going to do a CMA. I mean, like, RPR is fine, right? It's better than a Zestimate. Where's my girls with grit? I'm definitely not doing any fancy marketing materials or past client testimonials. I mean, active listening, who cares what they need? Forget about it. Ask for the close? Nah, they should sleep on it, or better yet, they should talk it over with their significant other who wasn't even present for the appointment. Follow up with next steps? Meh, I gave him my card. I mean, I answer my phone occasionally, but my voicemail's full. Ta-da! Was that easy? If you think that that was easy.
Yeah, that's the cable going on.
Check. Six.
Hear me now? Great. If you think that was easy, you must believe that you can immediately implement this into your life. If you believe, say yes. Louder. Your thoughts shape your beliefs, which determine your mindset, leads to action. Heard me say, right? Mindful, focus, where? Newsflash for you. The amount of information you consume versus the amount of change you can deploy is asymmetric. You must compartmentalize your work and allow the small successes to compound. Big outcomes are merely tiny pieces of evidence that you are who you say you are. And as my coach Bert always says, confidence is the memory of success. Of the 35,000 decisions we make every single day, 50% of what we do is simply because we did it yesterday. 50%! And the only way to break that cycle is to retell your story, redefine. Come on, guys. Here we go. Retell your story, redefine your beliefs, let go of what no longer serves you, use everything else to inspire positive momentum forward, take action, but surrender the outcome. Remember this: your journey is your life. The destination is the end. You can define your own path, but no one who is successful walks alone. EXP uses the hashtag built for this. And I remember when we coined it in 2020 during COVID, and I've often thought about what it means to me. But the other night, I went to bed really thinking about this. And true story, I shot out of bed at 4:17 a.m. from a deep slumber, and I shot up and I shouted, "Built for next." Now, nothing in life is guaranteed, and I know that more than most. But here is what I am certain of. As long as I am surrounded by the growth-minded people in this exceptional organization, I can't wait for what is next to come, and I promise you, I will meet you there. Thank you for allowing me to share this morning with you guys.